Good afternoon, West Ham fans. Russ, the West Ham Network. Hope you're well and safe, of course. It's Monday. It's a bit gloomy today, although it looks like it's going to be hotting up. I just look, next week's going to be a scorcher all week. Anyway, over the weekend, we spoke about 𝙍𝙀𝙋𝙊𝙍𝙍. We're interested in him, and that was about it. It wasn't really much other transfer news over the weekend. We know they don't like to work Sundays, so it doesn't tend to be any news on a Sunday. However, I want to talk about Mohamed Kudus. There's a good idea. The team report back to pre-season this week, with the exception of some of them like Edson Alvarez, obviously lifted the Gold Cup, scoring the winner yesterday. We'll talk about that a little bit more in Hammer's headlines. What that could mean potentially for West Ham in the rest of this close season. However, Mohamed Kudus is someone who will be of interest. We know there's a number of clubs interested in, particularly Tottenham. Now, according to reports, Tottenham have offered us laughable add-ons, which potentially could open up the door to other suitors, according to Claret Hugh. They have mentioned that although the fee was around £60 million we've offered, it included laughable add-ons, in terms of also £5 million extra if Spurs win the Champions League, £5 million extra if Spurs win the Premier League. So, frankly, there's more chance of us doing that than Spurs, in all honesty, having finished above them in the Premier League, I believe so. Now, this has opened up the potential for other suitors, because this has been quite protracted. We're led to be believed, according to Fabrizio Romano, that Spurs are the only club in town for Mohamed. I don't believe that, to be honest. I think, if anything, I think if Chelsea came in, they'd offer more in terms of consistency, their consistency in the top 4, top 5. And I think Spurs are a little bit wishy-washy. But one thing that has been mentioned is a desire for not to stay in the Premier League and not to leave the Premier League, particularly for the Saudi Pro League. However, we are led to be believed that 2 Saudi clubs have entered the auction for Mohamed Kudus, that being Al Nassr, who obviously have Cristiano Ronaldo in their roster, as well as Sadio Mane is in their roster, and obviously John Duran was and currently is technically, but he's on loan at Fenerbahce this season, and the new kid on the block, Neom, who apparently absolutely minted. And both are believed to be interested in Mohamed and will be entering the race, will it be believed. I think, to be honest, that would be the best outcome for us. If we're going to sell him, don't sell him to a rival club. We've had all that with Declan Rice. Now, it's a business thing, I know, as well. I don't think footballers see the rivalry as much as fans do, but in terms of the best conclusion to the situation, if you go to Saudi Arabia, they're likely to be giving the offer that we want. It wouldn't be the £120 million release clause, I don't think, but if they're looking for £65-70 million, they would have that on the hip, ready to roll. Mohamed would earn 3-4 times as much money, and although there's a desire for the player to play in the Champions League and stuff like that, it's generational wealth, and he's still quite young, so he could still, spend a couple of years playing in the Saudi Pro League, then come back to a Premier League side, or a Champions League side. We shall see. We shall see. There'll be developments in the next couple of days for sure in terms of his destination. As with the club back on pre-season, it's going to be interesting to see what happens as well in terms of who turns up. We know that Naya Figued has a desire to want to leave as well, wants to play Champions League football, but to be honest, the bids that are coming in for him are shit, to be fair. Lucas Paquetá, we know, is in the country. He was photographed the other day. Still very much a West Ham player, as we still are no closer to finding out when this resolution's going to happen or this decision on the hearing. Very much still a West Ham player, very much still in limit. I feel sorry for the player more than anything because he's had this over his head for, over 2 years now, and I find it absolutely ridiculous. If the evidence is there, then find him guilty. If it's not there, then you can't find him guilty. And the longer this protracted saga happens, it becomes the more and more of a case that they don't know, they haven't got the information, they haven't got the evidence to show plausible cause, because otherwise they'd have shown it and it'd be done and dusted. Anyway, we'll have Hammond's headlines a little bit later on. We'll talk about a couple of players we've signed, a couple of youth players we've signed, Edson Alvarez and various others. But until next time, my friends, have a lovely, lovely rest of your day. I'll be back this afternoon, a bit later on. Much love. See you later, alligator.